Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the 7th meeting of the Strategic Priorities and Policy Committee to order. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. The City of London is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Attawandaron. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. The City of London is currently home to many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit today. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. Before we get started, I just want to remind folks online, as we are also on YouTube, and anyone that's paying attention to the meeting in the gallery as well, the City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats of communication support for meetings upon request. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact sppc@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. So for today, I just want to let you know who's here with us in chambers and who's online. So in chambers, we've got Mayor Morgan, we've got Councillor McAllister, Councillor Cuddy, Councillor Pribble, Councillor Trousseau, we've got Councillor Lehman, Councillor Hopkins, Councillor Van Meerbergen, and Councillor Ferreira. And joining us online today, we've got Deputy Mayor Lewis, Councillor Pelosa, and we've got Councillor Hillier as well. Thank you to everyone that's joining us. We have quite a full gallery today as we're being joined by Young London. Welcome everyone, as well as members of London Hydro. We'll start with 1, disclosures of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we'll move to item 2, which is our consent agenda. I have not received any requests to pull any items, just looking around the room and online to see if there's any requests. Okay, seeing none, I'll look for a mover and a seconder on the consent. Councillor Van Meerbergen, Councillor Ferreira, and looking for any discussion on these items. I'll go to Councillor Trousseau. Go ahead.
Thank you. I did not want to pull this, but I did want to ask a question about the first item. And the reason I want to ask this question is I found going through the report, there's an asset management plan, there's an asset management program, there's an asset management policy, there's an infrastructure gap, and there's a levels of service. And I was just hoping, since it's on this first item, I was hoping before we get into the later item, if you could just very briefly just tell us the difference between the plan, the program, and the policy. And also, there seems to be a misconception that the infrastructure gap is what it would cost to bring things up to the desired level of service. And my understanding is that the gap is the difference between what's been budgeted and what it would take to bring things up to the level of services. So could you clarify that, please?
Thank you. Ms. Barbone, I'll go to you, and if you want to pass it to staff, thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, I can start, and then I can turn it over to Mr. Sinise to add a little bit more. So in terms of the policy, maybe just to back up further, the regulation that has been set is one of the guidance and the requirements for municipalities to follow. So as part of the regulations, first and foremost, the City of London needs to have a policy. So that was the very first start of setting the policy that lays out how we go about that work to provide the guidance in terms of looking how we overall manage our capital assets. So that was put in place, and as the regulations have changed and introduced timelines, we have further then developed what that program is on how we go about our work to be able to look at the state of our infrastructure, identify what the shortfalls in the funding are to support the levels of service, and where that the policy lays out the difference between the expected levels of service and maintaining the levels of service, so that councils can understand, based on the assets that they have, how they're meeting the desired levels of service versus maintaining what they currently have from a asset management perspective to look at what the state of that infrastructure is. So as we move forward, the regulation basically outlines certain dates that we have had to achieve, and we've been very successful at the City of London that we have met everything from a date perspective in the regulation. Now it is the continuation of that work on how we look at the state of our infrastructure, look at the strategies to address that infrastructure, and then bring forward what needs of that infrastructure might be through multi-year budget processes. So one of the key things through the regulation that got recently added was the addition of assets on our financial statements that would be managed through boards and commissions. So that was some of the most recent work that you saw take place last year. So the CAM team provides a great deal of assistance, not only to the corporation, but to the ABCs as well in terms of supporting them in their capital asset management plans. So I'm going to turn it over to Jason and see if I missed anything and he can fill in the gaps.
Thank you, Mr. Sinise.
Through the chair, that was a good overview by Ms. Barbone. The only thing to add to there would be the difference between the asset management plans and the asset management program. And the asset management program is the stuff that's happening day to day in between the development of the asset management plan. So these are going to be things and strategies that the service areas are putting in place to help mitigate the infrastructure gap. Our team in corporate asset management does work very closely with our service areas to help provide the necessary support to help them use the asset management plan, which is the overarching strategy, to help them operationalize their business plans, to help, again, try to manage those assets as best as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trosa.
Yes, and I don't want to get too technical, and this is not about any particular agency, but could you explain the notion of the infrastructure gap and exactly what it is and how you get to it?
Thank you, Mr. Sinise.
Thank you for the chair. So what we do is when we're building an asset management plan, the first step is to build your asset registry, which is looking at all the assets out within the scope, within the service area. We're then looking at the overall condition profile, we're looking at the replacement values, and then what we do is we use predictive modeling, which says here's our deterioration curves, and it models out our need for a 10-year period. We then look at our existing funding sources to identify the gap that would be then used to maintain existing service levels, and then our aspirational goals, which are going to be things that would be achieving additional higher levels of service, which would then result in a higher level of gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trosa. Thank you. I've got Mayor Morgan next on the speakers list, followed by Councillor Purple.
Yes, I'll make a few comments on this. I appreciate the comments and questions that Councillor Trosa asked to clarify. Obviously, these for the average citizen are not terms they come across often, and so understanding the work that the corporation is doing and the different pieces is important. So let me articulate the work in a slightly different way that hopefully makes it very understandable. Budgets are investments, like full stop. We can talk about tax rates, we could talk about support from other levels of government, we could talk about capital plans. At the end of the day, we invest money on behalf of Londoners. And there's a really good section of this report that outlines the impacts of our multi-year budget on the infrastructure gap. In section 2.5, table 1 summarizes the impacts of the multi-year budget on the city's 10-year infrastructure gap required to maintain current levels of service. Initially estimated at $946 million, the CAM plan reporting period of 2022 to 2031, so over that period. This figure has now been reduced to just under $700 million. Because of the investments that we've made in the multi-year budget. So what have those cost? And this is not including the boards and commissions, this is just the city. Decreasing the infrastructure gap in the following areas: wastewater, sanitary, wastewater, stormwater, transportation and mobility, corporate facilities, cultural services, recreation and sports, parks, London Fire Department, long-term care. All of those areas saw a decrease in their projected infrastructure gap because of investments we made. If you look at the boards and commissions side of things, through that same time period, these are organizations that manage a collective $1 billion in assets. The plan initially identified about $221 million on the boards and commissions side, which has now been reduced to $36.7 million. Now, there are a couple of boards and commissions still working on their plans, so we'll get more information, but just that reduction itself is one of the most significant reductions that I've seen in my time on council in the infrastructure gap. So what organizations have benefited from this and seen a decrease? Covent Garden Market, London Police Service, London Public Library, London Transit Commission, Museum London, RBC Place, as examples. If we are going to continue to meet the infrastructure gap and try to not continue to put enormous pressure on property taxpayers, this is what Londoners need to understand, because support from other levels of government for basic infrastructure for municipalities is critical to us continuing to make these investments. It's why when I go later this week to Ottawa for the big city mayors meetings and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, infrastructure and supporting municipal infrastructure is incredibly important, because this is what investments can do. We can have better capital in our city. We can meet the needs of deteriorating capital. We can close infrastructure gaps. The City of London has done a significant investment on this. We've done our fair share of investments, but only collecting 9 cents of every tax dollar and being responsible for 60% of the assets and infrastructure in this country, we do absolutely need help from other levels of government to continue to bring this gap down. And so I just wanted to provide that context. I think this outlines real progress, but it does not mean that we don't have significant and serious conversations to have about municipal infrastructure in this country with our other levels of government partners, of which I will say they are willing participants and have been, but we need to look at a holistic picture, and we need to make sure that we're replacing these important infrastructure assets that people in our community and people across Canada depend on.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Purple.
Thank you. Excuse me. I would like to make a comment in terms of the, actually on the agenda 2.2, which is our implementation plan. And I would like to state that almost 97% of the actions being on track or completed is a really very successful accomplishment to get to this point. So thank you for that to the entire staff and all your teams. I do have a question though regarding the 194 matrix. We are completion 119, which is about 80%, exceeded their targets in 2024. My question is the 20%, are these targets that they finished at in 2024 and therefore 20 have not been completed, 20%? Or is this ongoing that this percentile could be actually increased and we still have a chance to accomplish those ones at 100%? Thank you.
Thank you. And I was also supposed to give Ms. Statersbeer a chance to also say a little remark about it. So if you want to do that at the end or before, feel free. And I know Mr. Fowler's here to answer your questions on this report as well.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So the implementation plan sets targets for each of the 4 years of Council's strategic plan. And so that 80% performance rate for 2024 measures staff's performance in the implementation plan against the 2024 targets. 2025 will have its own targets set out in the implementation plan. And so the evaluation of that is ongoing. And so we can anticipate that number could fluctuate up or down in terms of the overall success for 2025 and hopefully up.
Councillor Purple.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you. Next, I have Councillor Lehman, followed by Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Chair. I remember when the regulations came through, and I believe a very necessary thing to do. But it was handled easier with our larger ABCs and was a bit onerous on our smaller ones. I remember I was on the board for the Covent Garden Market, and we didn't have that talent in-house to A, put the registry together, or B, look at asset management. So I think that added a cost burden to the market's functions. And so I remember at that time, discussions were held to share maybe that resource, for example, with the convention center, RBC Place. So now that was a few years ago, and years have gone by. So I just want to get a bit of an update through you, Chair. How are we assisting our smaller boards and commissions, or are we leaving it up to them? And are they able to share resources now that kind of the registry, I would assume, is complete, and now we've moved into just kind of the asset management phase?
Ms. Barbone.
Thank you through the chair. So I'm trying to recall exactly how long ago we did this, but my team has been assisting the various boards and commissions. So later on the agenda, you have the London Middlesex Housing Corporation's asset management plan that was updated. Our team has been assisting those organizations. They assisted, there was a number of the plans that came forward last year that the team assisted those organizations. We developed an agreement for cost sharing across those smaller organizations to be able to provide that expertise to assist them in developing those plans so that they have the resources available and are able to meet the intent of the regulation to meet that. It's been working, I would say, fairly successfully to date. We were able to get the first number of asset management plans updated well in advance of meeting that regulation. So I certainly, from what I understand, the boards and commissions have found that very, very useful to assist in developing that, because certainly they don't have the ability to have that expertise to the extent that is needed within their staffing.
Councillor Lehman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through you, so just for confirmation, you're satisfied that the smaller boards and commissions are meeting their the regulatory requirements?
Ms. Bourbon?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, we've assisted all of them. I'm not, Covent Garden Market doesn't fall under that category because it is listed specifically within our assets, the way the structure was set up. But all of the boards and commissions that we had to do plans for have been assisted that did not have the expertise to meet that on their own. And those were brought forward last year for council approval.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Hopkins next.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and my thanks to the comments around addressing the infrastructure gap. I think that is something that we, I know as a council, have invested in, trying to reduce it. It's good to see that we have come down from 946 million to just under 700 million. And I appreciate the work the mayor is doing and his advocacy federally, as well as I know at AMO provincially, trying to get municipalities, to assist municipalities as well. So, you know, we've also put money into decreasing it, but maybe a quick question through you, Madam Chair, to staff, wanting to have a better understanding about the program strategy. It was suggested that we do have a strategy. And I know I've been on council a number of years, seen it go up and up and up. It's great to see it now coming down. But if I could have a better understanding, what do we need to do here within our own capabilities and our strategy to reduce the infrastructure gap?
Thank you very much,
Mr.
through the
Sinise,
chair. So there's a couple different things at play here. The first is going to be financial, and that's going to be addressed through the multi-year budgeting process, which I think has been just acknowledged through the comments made by various council members and the mayor today. But in addition to that, we're also working, again, with the various service areas to identify different life cycle management strategies, which could include improving data for improved decision-making, improving risk-based modeling, so they can help prioritize the level of investment that would make the most sense in terms of the optimal use of limited funds. And then, again, we're trying to build additional modeling tools for them, again, primarily around that prioritization. So that's really the big thing, embedding that risk-based thinking into the decision-making to, again, maximize the value for the investment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers on the consent items? Okay, seeing none online or in chambers, we will look to open the vote on items 2.1, 2.2.
Trustle votes yes.
Closing vote, motion carries 13-0.
Thank you. That takes us to our scheduled items, and our first item is 3.1, which is the London Hydro 2024 Annual General Meeting of the Shareholder Annual Resolutions. I'm pleased to welcome the board chair, Connie Graham, to join us, and our CEO of London Hydro. There he is behind the podium. I wanted to make sure you were there before he does. Uzni Samsonini, thank you so much for being here today. You have 5 minutes for your presentation on all the items before us. So it's quite a bit of information that you've provided, so thank you for that. I'll let you know when you have about 30 seconds remaining to give you the wrap-up signal. And thank you again for being here, and go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, Madam Chair.
Sorry, one moment. Thank you, go ahead.
Does the clock start now? Your Worship, Madam Chair, and City Councilors, thank you so much for giving us time this afternoon. We'll be sharing our 2024 results, present an executive brief of the refreshed strategic plan, and request approval of various shareholder resolutions. And I will skip the land acknowledgement, seeing that Madam Chair has covered that already. First of all, I wanted to say what a successful year we've had, once again, as London Hydro, but the success is always the result of the work of a talented team of professionals that have truly every day acted in the best interest of the corporation and our fellow Londoners. So it's an honor to have worked with these people, one I've never forget, and I'd like my colleagues at London Hydro to please stand. Please stand. This is where you stand. Thank you. I appreciate all your work. Thank you. And Tanya, would you please stay standing? I would like to introduce to you our board's incoming chair, Tanya Goodine. Her 3-year term begins at the conclusion of today's meeting. Tanya is an accomplished executive. She retired a couple of years ago from a 3-decade-long career with Libro. She was the Executive Vice President of Engagement Strategy and Innovation, and she has been with our board for about 4 years now. She has been invaluable as chair of our Human Resources and Compensation Committee. Last year, I asked Tanya to lead the board's 6-month CEO recruitment special committee, during which she demonstrated her considerable leadership ability and easygoing style. And Tanya, please accept our congratulations and best wishes. As you would imagine, the recruitment and selection of a new CEO is any board's most critical responsibility. Applications were received from across North America, and a gentleman who began his electrical engineering career right here at London Hydro in 2006 was selected. And Uzni Samsonini comes to London Hydro, having served successfully as CEO at Festival Hydro, Rhizome Networks, and NT Power in Newmarket. And most of you have had the opportunity to meet him, and I'm sure you've had a very interesting conversation. He's definitely a people person. He's driven to engage, partner, and serve London in very, very new ways, refreshing ways. I would like to introduce Uzni now to continue on and give you the information on our 2025 results. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Before I get into the 2024 results, yeah, it's okay, results for the AGM, I just want to thank Connie Graham. So Connie has been our chair at London Hydro for the last 3 years, has been a board member for 14, served as vice chair for an additional 3, and has also been the corporate governance and HR chair in her tenure at London Hydro. As you might imagine, Connie has been a voice of good within the boardroom. She has moved things forward in this organization. I will personally miss her and wish her all the best in her future endeavors on new boards that I know we will see you on. Being aware of the timing here, I think where I will focus my discussion is really the business of the AGM. So the reason that London Hydro comes before you today is because of the Ontario Business Corporations Act, we are required to get 3 motions passed in front of our shareholder each year. London Hydro is the sole shareholder of London Hydro Inc., and therefore needs to approve 3 items, and there's a 4th on the agenda for today. So the first is the approval of financial statements. This year we did something a little bit different. We actually engaged with city staff after the audited statements were approved by our board of directors and went through the financial statements with city staff and answered any questions that they may have of the financial statements. Those statements were approved and reviewed by our auditors, KPMG, which is the same audit firm as the City of London. We also come here to get our election and affirmation of our board of directors. So the board slate will look very much similar to what you saw last year. The only change being, of course, that Connie is stepping down, and there was a recruitment process that was undertook this year to find a new director. The London Hydro Board of Directors posted on the city site, also posted on the ICD, International, sorry.
Mr. Samsudini, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got 30 seconds remaining. So
Sure.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my colleagues if you would move a motion for a 5-minute extension. Councillor Ferreira and Councillor Van Meerbergen, that will open in the system for you.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to make you talk fast, I'm sorry.
Deputy Mayor Lewis. Deputy Mayor Lewis, marking you absent. Closing the vote, motion carries 12-0.
Thank you, please continue.
I hope I did that properly. So as I'd mentioned, the board did an extensive search where they posted application on the city's website, also the ICD, the corporate director's website, and a website, Mary website, which is used extensively by utilities in the province. They had applications from across the country. They shortlisted candidates based on skills matrix and requirements of the board. They conducted interviews, and they bring a recommendation forward to council today to elect Paul Madden to the board of directors, and that's included in the full slate that has been provided. The third item that council is required to approve for us is the appointment of auditors. As I had mentioned, our current auditors are at KPMG, which is in line with the city's auditors. I believe the city is going out for audit service in 2027. Will be the next time that they go out for audit service. KPMG is probably the largest audit firm that audits LDCs in the province. They probably have somewhere north of 80% of all utilities in the province that they do audit service for, so they are the experts in the field, and there's a recommendation from the board for the appointment of KPMG as the auditors for the 2025 year. The final approval that we will be looking for today is the approval of changes to the shareholder declaration. There was 4 elements of the shareholder declaration that were put forward that had to do with board compensation and the process associated with that, the ability to invite the mayor to strategic meetings of the board when required, the ability to remove directors from the board through application to the city. And I will tell you that there is nothing festering there. It is just good governance, so that has been put on there as well. Besides the business of the AGM and just being mindful of time, the other thing that I will maybe read to you is the headlines of London Hydro through the 2024 year. It was a good year at London Hydro. Financial results, we achieved targets and exceeded our budget for that year. We had stable year-over-year returns, so net income was a bit better than the previous year. We also remained stable at our A rating with the S&P rating as well. Dividends exceeded targets, so we continued a $5.5 million dividend to the City of London. We have just broached $100 million in total dividends paid since London Hydro began paying dividends in the early 2000s. That target is 40%. We are paying out right now about 46.9, so almost 47% of net income to dividends to the city. We've also seen decreased outages over the last year, where the average Londoner is seeing about 47 minutes of outage time a year, and with 0.88 instances. So that means the average Londoner saw less than 1 outage take place per year. I know for some in the north that might seem like a ridiculous number. We are doing things to try to improve our reliability in the north of the city, but the average Londoner has some of the best quartile ratings of reliability in the sector in Ontario. We're continuing to see increased electrification, 50% increase in EVs that were connected to our system from 3,000 to 4,500 in the last year. We also connected an additional 2 megawatts of solar generation in 2024, which is the equivalent of about 285 houses on peak loading. We also still boast some of the lowest distribution rates in the province, lowest quartile distribution rates as a utility, and we invested $56.2 million in capital investment. The last thing that I'll just point to before turning it back over is we also released our new strategic plan, Vision 2030, that's included in your package. That plan is an opportunity for London Hydro to work collaboratively within our community and earn every customer, which is our vision. I know it's easy for a regulated business to sometimes forget that we have customers and that we need to set a higher bar and do what's right by our customers because we are a monopoly and we actually have a higher bar to make our customers happy and really be a utility that people can be proud of, both within London and outside of its walls. So I encourage you to please, if you haven't had the chance to read this strategic plan, it's a pretty easy read from that perspective. We will be launching more on our own social media channels of the strategic plan so our customers can see it as well. Being mindful of time, Madam Chair, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, very much appreciated, and you still had 30 seconds to spare, so well done. I just, before we move on, and I'll look for a motion to receive the delegation and also the communication that's in front of us, as well as the mover for the recommended member as well. Before I do that, I just wanted to say, today I'm filling in for Deputy Mayor Lewis, and of course, big shoes to fill. And so I'm not great at sports references, but I will say I've had the great pleasure of working with Ms. Graham as the board chair at London Hydro, and Connie is a person that skates to where the puck is going. And I know Sean will be very proud of me for using a sports reference. And your vision, your leadership, your good governance, all of those things will be missed, and especially the mentorship. So thank you, Connie. I will look to members for a motion. Councillor Lehman, would you like to put a motion on the floor to receive and a recommendation as well?
Yes, Chair. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to, I think it's a two-parter, and check with the clerk. So part A would be to receive A through D, the presentation, the 5-year strat plan, the financial results, and the annual report on finance. And then part B would be to move the draft shareholder resolution. And included in that are two parts. One is confirmation of the board appointment of Paul Madden, which is the board's recommendation. And the second part would be confirming the auditor of KPMG, which is also the board recommendation. That would leave G. I'm not too sure if I need to receive G, which would be the consideration request. I would require some advice from the clerk.
Thank you, and we'll go to the clerk just to confirm how we'll craft the motion, and then I'll be looking for a seconder.
The motion is now shared on the screen. It is parts A through H. The first, the proposed bylaw to ratify and confirm the annual resolutions of the shareholder of London Inc. be introduced at the next municipal council meeting, and then to receive the presentation as well as the items on the agenda, with H concluding that Paul M. Madden be appointed to the London Hydro Board of Directors, second class, for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
Thank you. Does that confirm your motion? Okay, thank you. Councillor Lehman, I as seconder, and Councillor Cuddy. I'll look for discussion on this item. Councillor Lehman, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll please give me a signal if I get to my end of my time here, because I want to address a few things here. First of all, to the board, we're the single shareholder of London Hydro. And as a shareholder, I look for two things. It's a public utility, so I look at the delivery of service to our residents, but also to our commercial users and our industry, because those provide the jobs for our residents. And once again, my time at council, London Hydro has delivered on all accounts. As you mentioned, Yuzhny, the the uprate is good. At London North, every sort of thing, but you're addressing that. And that's important for, work at home, enjoyment of our city. But just as critical is the availability of reliable power for our industrial customers and for our commercial customers as they drive the economics of this city. So well done. The second thing I look for as a shareholder is a return on our investment. A while back, number of years ago, I pushed to see an increase in dividends. Hydro debated that, which I think was a fulsome debate, and bumped it up $500,000. And I was pleased to see it continuing on at 5.5 million with that percentage of 46%. So thank you for delivering consistent returns on our investment. Ms. Graham, I want to echo the chair. You've been at the helm as well as the CEO, past CEO and the current CEO with your board, delivering on behalf of London in this very, very important utility to our city. We'll miss you and welcome the new chair. I look forward to working with you, but I just wanted to say thank you. And finally, to the reason for moving the board's recommendation of a new board member. I looked through Mr. Madden's resume, fairly substantial, president of 3M Canada. I think he'll make a terrific addition to your board. We also look at the process that the board went through, a very wholesome process of vetting the candidates and interviewing the candidates. And this is a skill-based board to see which is the candidate level fit the skill that's needed with this present board makeup. So I wholeheartedly supported the board's recommendation. And once again, thank you for your service. I will see how the discussion goes. I might come back first with some further questions, but just wanted to get that out.
Thank you. I have Councillor Trosso next, and then Mayor Morgan.
Thank you. I'd like to call Part H separately. And with respect to Part H, I do have some questions, and I'm wondering if this is the right time to ask them or whether we should just dispose of everything else and come back to this.
Yep, thank you. You can go ahead.
Can I, perhaps through the chair, I can just incorporate all of the comments that I made last time this issue was before us? But since we don't have that transcript here, I want to make a few points. We have 202 pages of people's resumes and applications in our agenda. And I don't know how many copies of this agenda are printed. And I don't know how long it takes to read through all these. I try. My math isn't that good, but I count 50-some applications here. How many, if I may ask through the chair, how many people did you interview?
Thank you. I'll go to Ms. Graham.
Thank you for the question, Councillor.
Just one moment, Councillor. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you for the question. The process is, Councillor Trosso, that the selection committee, which is the full board, it's a committee of the whole, reviews the CVs versus our skills matrix. We isolated 5 to be personally interviewed. So that was 5 got the full interview, which is 45-minute interview and then question and answer by the candidate.
Councillor Trosso.
May I ask who the 5 were?
Ms. Graham?
That is confidential to the board, but I can assure you, when we took a look at our skills matrix, we isolated candidates that had in-depth knowledge of our industry, that were IT specialists, that were corporate CEO, higher level executive experience, and those were the people that ultimately, by CV, made the final interview. The decision process, however, is made on the interview. As we all know, CVs can say a lot of things, but it's the detail that's elicited in the interview that ultimately makes the board's decision.
Counselor Chasa.
Okay, so I won't extend this for a full 5 minutes. I'll just tell you what my conclusions are here. Once again, I object to this. Because I think that if we're going to go through this process of inviting the public to file applications, to be told that you have one preferred candidate and that we don't even get to know who the finalists are, and the other ones weren't even interviewed, I have a serious problem with that because there might be other skills and attributes that a member of your board might want to have. And I'm just going to repeat what I said last time this came up, and I'm going to repeat it again when it comes up next time. It might not be a bad idea to have somebody, and at least council should get to consider this, somebody with a consumer rights background on the board. I know that this is a generally very well-run organization, and we don't have a lot of issues. I know in many other cities that I'm aware of, this is a very important question. So I really question why, once again, we are being told who to appoint without any further consideration by council. And I just cannot go along with this. And I say that with all due respect to your process, but if we're gonna do that, if we're gonna allow your agency to basically tell this council who to appoint, let's just change the bylaws and say you don't even have to come to council, because that's tantamount to what we do, and I object to it. So there I am.
Thank you, Counselor. I have Mayor Morgan and then Counselor Cuddy.
Well, I'll start off, and then I'll respond to some comments my colleagues made, but I'll start off saying the same thing that has been said before. I want to thank Connie Graham for her service to the board. I know the chair tried to make a sports analogy and said that you'd be skating to where the puck is, so you'll be spending a lot of time tonight in Medicine Hat's net because the Knights are going to crush them. But your work on the board has been transformative in guiding the organization through some challenging times. You've been a member of that board through the pandemic and challenges within and changes within the utilities, basically the hydro system changing across the province and at a time of rapid movement. So the leadership you provided and guidance on the board, I think, has been very helpful to the other board members, particularly at times when new board members were coming on and needed mentorship, and I know you've taken the time to be a good mentor on the board. I'll say, in response to some of the concerns about the appointment process, that through the chair, the Hydro Association is following what council has asked them to do in their shareholder directions. They're following a process, and when you look at the letter that they are giving to us, the word is recommend. They're providing a recommendation based on the work that they've done. The reason why all the applications are before us is because we have the full right to say, no, thank you, we're picking someone else. So I'll be clear, council is not being told what to do here, but the board is doing exactly what we've asked them to, and that's take a look at your needs, go through a process, report back on that process, and make a recommendation. And I know the board respects and would respect if we chose someone different for whatever reasons that we would. But it's a recommendation that's before us, and that's how the process works. I'm comfortable with the recommendation, and I'll be supporting it as I am the other recommendations. And I want to thank the board for their thoughtfulness in the recommendation to invite the mayor to come from time to time to board meetings when it's strategic to do so. I think that it is appropriate for the mayor not to have to be at every board meeting because it's probably not necessary, but there are times when there are critical decisions being made with the utility that the perspective and guidance that I can give, as well as the perspective that I get from across the province and country through the work that I do, might be of value to the board, and I'm happy to see that recommendation, and I think it's a good one, and I'm fully willing to participate at the board's invitation when they feel it's necessary. So again, thanks to you and the new CEO. as well as the previous members who've served on the board over the past couple of terms for the leadership you provided. Obviously, thank you for the continued return of dividends to the city, which we have put to good use. I know that that's always a topic of discussion. And I think the board has done a good job of balancing the city's desire to have robust dividends while not risking the organization's ability to capitalize itself and make the investments that it needs to make over the period of time that we expect. Given we just had a discussion about infrastructure gap and the importance of investing in infrastructure, I think we all recognize around this table that we could always ask for more dividends all the time because that makes our life easier, but we have to recognize that significant investments need to be made in this utilities infrastructure to continue to provide great service to the people of London and region. So thanks so much for the work you do, and I'm supportive of the recommendation before us.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Cuddy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. When this board seat became available, one of the first calls I made was to Connie Graham. And like Connie always does, she called me right back. And we had a wholesome conversation, thank you. And I asked Connie what she was looking for in a board member, and she told me. And as a stakeholder, I don't know what the board of directors needs. It's up to them to tell us as stakeholders what they need. And as the mayor alluded, we're not being told what to do. It's a suggestion, it's a recommendation. And that's what's been put forward. You know, I've served, Madam Chair, I've served on a number of corporate boards, and I've made recommendations because I knew what we needed, what was missing in terms of skill sets on the board. And we made those recommendations, and our stakeholders accepted them. Possibly with some objections, but for the most part, they accepted them. And I think as stakeholders, major stakeholders, in London Hydro, we depend on, and I mean we do depend on, our board to tell us what they need. And, you know, Ms. Graham, I won't go on like everyone else has, but I want to thank you for the work you've done. You have been a tremendous communicator. And I'm grateful. I know we're all grateful for the work you've done. And Yasni, we look forward to many, many years of service with you. Again, you have some incredible skills. We've had a chance to spend time together. I look forward to more time together. And I wholesomely recommend that we take the recommendation from the board and for their candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just wanted to make a couple comments, and maybe just as a follow-up to Councillor Tresso's concerns. I heard the concerns last year. I hear your concerns this year. I too am not sure what our role is, but I do appreciate the work and effort that London Hydro is forwarding on to us here. So thank you for that. Mr. Samsudini, I think this is your first time here in council chambers, so welcome. And thank you for the money. $5 million is very much appreciated. I also want to thank London Hydro as well. I represent Ward 9. The Byron area had a number of outages a number of weeks ago with the storm. And one thing I found residents really did appreciate was the app following when the outages, where the outages were, when they were expected to come in. That was a wonderful piece of technology that I know residents appreciated. So thank you for that. And to Ms. Graham, as a woman, thank you for your mentorship as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you wanted to comment on the outages, Mr. Samsudini, if you wanted to speak at all about the technology.
Yeah, so resiliency in our system is a big part of what you would see as a portion of our strategic plan. We know that storms are getting worse, they're getting more frequent, the damage is becoming more widespread. And as a utility, we need to make those investments in our system to ensure that the system is hardened, that we have automated switches. If I go back to an outage that happened a few months ago now, but the whole north west of the city was out of power. We had lost 33,000 customers. We were able to switch those customers back in with under an hour without one truck roll. We're able to do it from our service center or our operations center, and we were able to bring up that power with a loss from Hydro One supply. The same outage sort of happened about 2 weeks later. Again, that was a Hydro One outage, 60,000 customers out, and we were able to pick up customers through our system automation and our ability to pick up those customers. In the case of the storm that we had through Byron, that outage was a little bit longer. Some outages out for 24 to 48 hours, which is uncommon for a utility like ours to see outages in that time frame. I do thank staff. They gave up their nights. They worked around the clock. They worked as long as they could. We called in contractors. We did everything that we could do to restore power as quickly and as safely as possible. And we appreciated the support we got from residents during that storm. It's easy to yell at the people who are out there trying to bring your power back on because, you know, you're trying to watch the Leafs game or whatever else is going on in your life. But they're giving up time from their families, putting themselves, you know, those are dangerous situations when trees are down, pole lines are down, wires are on the ground. That is a dangerous situation. And we thank our teams for being there, answering the call, and restoring power. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have Councillor Pelosa next, followed by Councillor Ferreira and Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will have a series of comments and questions. And thank you to Ms. Graham. Again, I loved your chairing and your being a straight shooter when a person asks questions. It's a rarity and a gem when you find it. I'll also let colleagues know that if you are really excited about this board and what they're doing in their meetings, they were quite welcoming of me when I wanted to learn a little bit more on site as an observer. So it's not just the mayor, it's any of us. I'm sure that'd be welcome at any time. As I said, I do have a series of questions. The appointments recommendation came through the Corporate Governance and Risk Management Committee of the Board of London Hydro. Was it a unanimous recommendation?
Thank you, Councillor Pelosa, for the question. It was as the committee of the whole, that was the selection committee, it was not a unanimous decision. We came down to 2 excellent candidates, and it was a split decision. And but this was let's say, a significant majority decision for Mr. Madden.
Councillor?
Thank you. Appreciate knowing that, as there was many wonderful applications that were quite impressive in our package today. Looking for a little bit of information, even just an overview. I know that as we deal with our residents, as part of your report alludes to vulnerable users of hydro in the city. And on page 232, it outlines 12,000 customers assessing the Ontario Electricity Support Program and some low-income energy assistance program. Just a really high level of how would we connect residents into that, and is there adequate funding made available to those who need it? Like, is it oversubscribed, and are some people turned away?
Mr. Samsonini.
Thank you for that question. So the way the program works is there was changes in the rules a couple of years back that allowed. There were maximums before that if you exhausted the spending on the OESP programs, that you couldn't get any more. The OEB has made changes in those programs now, so customers can access the maximum funding, which I believe is somewhere between $700 and $800 to pay their hydro bill, but there is no limit in terms of the number of customers. So if we've had 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 customers come forward, they will all be assessed based on the amount that they can draw themselves. The way for customers to access any funding or any conversations that they would like to have about challenges in paying their bills is contact us. Contact the London Hydro customer service team. They have all the information at their fingertips about the programs available, how customers may save money and help on the affordability issue. This is something that we're all aware of as a challenge. It has been an increased challenge since COVID. We are seeing it. Tariffs, of course, those discussions don't help. So we are here to help, and we are looking to help as much as we can for our most vulnerable within the city.
Councillor Pelosa.
Thank you for that. Another question on an unrelated topic. The OEB has granted special provisions to the company until May 2025 regarding your green button standards and technologies. As it was an exciting program, just looking to see where this sits at now, as I know it was industry-wide take-up, both in Ontario and abroad, for the great work that you were doing. So just looking to see how that development is still occurring today.
Thank you. Mr. Samsonine.
Great. Yeah, so we are still in that program. The OEB has approved a extension to the May 2025 date to align with our cost of service application that will be going in front of the Ontario Energy Board in early 2027. So we did get the approval to continue on with the programs that are outside of Ontario. Essentially, within the LDC, we're able to provide shared services to other utilities within Ontario. The exemption was really around 3 companies that are either outside of Ontario or not electric distribution companies. So that extension was given, and we continue to provide those services going forward.
Councillor Pelosa.
Perfect. Thank you, as it was a very impressive program, and obviously known throughout the country. A question which I'll leave it to you for leeway of how you would like to answer it. As you may be aware, Mayor Morgan and myself was doing some engagement across different agency boards and commissions that have tax-supported budgets regarding municipal taxes. As London Hydro is a wholly owned subsidiary of the corporation, we did not present to you, but just looking overall for your finances, what do you do to help keep operations as lean as possible, realizing that it might not be tax-based supported, but definitely the dividends coming back into the city is very helpful for Londoners and how we use it on our budgets with the city.
Thank you, Mr. Samsonine.
Sure. So London Hydro, of course, is I'll say a heavily regulated organization, regulated by the Ontario Energy Board. So the way we've chosen to do it is every 5 years we go in front of the OEB and essentially present our cost structure to the Ontario Energy Board. As part of that process, we review things like spending increases, to ensure that our customers are getting fair and just hydro rates. As I had mentioned before, London Hydro is one of the lowest quartile cost utilities in the province. So I think we've done historically a very good job of doing that. The challenge sometimes becomes when we think about earning additional revenues. So when a utility cuts their operating costs, that money does not sit there as additional revenue and funds over the long term. What happens is the Ontario Energy Board reduces the amount of distribution revenue that you get as an organization, keeping the bottom line consistent. So for us, it really is a measure of the work that we have to do as a utility, and of course, balancing the affordability needs of our customers. But we don't create, excess revenues in the organization through cuts of our operating expenses.
Councillor Pelosa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just, my closing statement would just be thank you and welcome to Chambers as your first time here, and thank you for reaching out one-on-one with us beforehand. And I really appreciate your view coming into this, that if customers had a choice, would London Hydro still be the preferred operator of choice? So I really appreciate that and you being here and answering my questions. I look forward to engagements going forward.
Thank you. I have Councillor Ferreira next, followed by Deputy Mayor Lewis and Councillor Purple. Councillor Ferreira.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to London Hydro for being here and presenting to us today. And I guess I'm going to echo Councillor Pelosa and reaching out to us beforehand too and engaging with us as well. I have some comments that I'm going to echo, and then I guess I'll get into some other comments too, but I will echo, thank you, Ms. Graham, for the work that you do, and I hope that all the best in your future. I know you were saying that we will see you again. You're not going anywhere, so I'm sure this work that you're doing for us or for the city anyways, will continue on, and I would say congrats to Tanya up there. I'm sorry I didn't catch your last name, but I know that you're going to do good work as well if this board has selected you. So congrats on the new role, and we will look forward to seeing you. And Mr. Samsonine, obviously, thank you as well to you. I'll do the political thing and just put my thanks out. But I appreciated our chat that we had a few months back. I will be coming again, and I do feel very good knowing that this is in your hands. So I do see that you have a very good wealth of knowledge. Really appreciate the engineering aspect that you bring to it, and I know I want to have some more chats with you on that in the future. I heard some comments, I think it was from Councilor Lehman, about the stable service and the consumer and the customer aspect. And I would truly believe that anybody who doesn't read this report would know, just from the services that they see, just, you know, living in the city and, you know, using, I guess, plugging in and using power and seeing that stability in services, they would see just the reality and the experience that they have matches what we see in this report too. So I would kind of point that out too, and I do see that myself. I would point out too, I know we were talking about outages in the west and the north, but some in the central west area too that did have some outages. And I know that's due to trees coming down with significant weather events and possibly some collisions as well. But because I live there and I've experienced a couple of outages, I just point that out for my colleagues that we get it too sometimes, but I know it's not on London Hydro. It's just, you know, the infrastructure getting, I guess, having collisions, or like I said, a tree coming down. I wanted to just kind of go on to the EV comments that we were hearing. So I know we spoke about this on the last meeting, but I just wanted to maybe get some more comments, or maybe even a status update on our capacity for as the city, as residents buy more EVs, the capacity that we have, how that's going to sustain us into the future. What are the projections like on how many, I guess, vehicles or whatever numbers that you may have that we can plug in, and how long with our current system, and how many EVs are we able to use as the city does electrify? So I just wanted to kind of put that ask you that question.
Thank you. So you're looking for more information about as we grow as a city, as well as our capacity? Just to clarify, just because you were asking EV specific, but.
Well,
I
it
just
is
think it's
focused
more
on
broader.
EVs, but I do know that we have, I guess, a surplus of capacity at the moment. But I just wanted to know, how long will that hold us into the future? And then projecting of how we electrify, how long will that sustain us for? So that's kind of the question I'm asking.
Thank you, Mr. Samsonini.
Great. So currently, we've got about 850 megawatts of capacity within the City of London. Our peak usage last year was up around 700 megawatts. We have about 150 megawatts of available capacity through the stations that we are. As you could imagine, in the time of electrification, data centers, other areas, that capacity can be used up fairly quickly. We are in the process right now of dealing on a regional study that happens with IESO, Hydro One, ourselves, about the needs of London into the future, and our team is working through that today. We are putting together, as part of our cost of service application, a distribution system plan that will talk about capacity needs and the builds that we need to do over the coming 5, 10, 15 years to be able to ensure we can meet capacity needs as we go forward. So I'm happy to say that I will be back to council at some point, either late this year or early next year, to talk about that distribution system report, let you know what it means from a capacity perspective as we move forward. EVs, you know, to date, it's still been a fairly low pickup. Yes, we're increased from 3,000 to 4,500. The impacts that we're going to see from EVs aren't usually around our station capacity alone. It's probably more the very local capacity that we have near the home. So that might require, you know, digging up the line from the transformer into the home. So there's ways that we have to adjust to be able to ensure that people can connect. And we have an engineering team that's ready to respond to those issues as they come up. But to date, we haven't had any issues connecting those customers. We still have lots of capacity on our system. We've got a way forward to ensure we can continue to connect people in the City of London.
Councilor Pereira.
Thank you for that. And just a quick follow-up. So when you say like local infrastructure works, that's like a 100 amp line to a house upgrading to a 200 or 400 amp line, things like that is what you're saying. Okay. I guess I will move on. I will also echo, thank you for the dividends. We do appreciate that, and good work on that. And I guess the last thing that I want to comment on would be, because this is part of the motion, the recommendation for Paul M. Madden. So I went through all of the applications as well, and the first thing I'm going to say is like, wow, the type and the level of candidates that you get for the board is very impressive. So I know that these decisions are hard to make, and I know that there, you know, I was speaking with Ms. Graham, there are some candidates that I'm sure was a tough decision. And for me, I had Paul Madden definitely at the top of my list as well, and I also had another candidate that I did mention to Ms. Graham, but I understand, you know, these decisions are made, and I'm sure they're like a tight race when you get to that. So I would be supportive of the candidate as is appointed. I do hear Councillor Trusso's comments what he was saying. But I am in agreement with, I guess, the selection of the board as well. So I will be supporting this candidate as well. And just to wrap up my comments, I appreciate the work that you do. I appreciate the outreach that you're doing with council. And I look forward to seeing you again, Ms. Graham, and the new chair. Look forward to speaking with you again. And thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Deputy Mayor Lewis next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me first say, you nailed the hockey analogy perfectly at the start. Well done. I knew I was leaving committee in good hands with my vice chair to fill in for me today as I recover a little bit of mobility at home. But and I'm just going to continue that. I'm going to be really brief. I don't need to reiterate what everyone else has said. You know, it's hard to replace a first line center, and our board did that when they found Uzni and brought him on board as our new CEO. It's just as hard to replace a championship quality level coach, and that's what we had in Ms. Graham as our board chair. So I just want to wish Ms. Goodnine all the best moving forward into that role. She's got some big shoes to fill, but I know she's up to the challenge there. I just want to say, with respect to the appointment, I am very much supportive of the board's direction here, their recommendation forward. And I do not share the same concerns that have been raised by a couple of other councillors. In fact, I think that we need to do more of boards reviewing resumes and bringing forward recommendations based on the skill sets that they need to better inform council moving forward. I don't think it's actually realistic with all of the council duties that we have, that we would be reviewing, reading every single resume, participating in interviews with candidates. I think that is best left to boards and their governance committees and their evaluation matrices. Obviously, the final decision does rest with us, but I'm very comfortable with the caliber of candidate that's being recommended. I know that the board has done its homework because I too have the opportunity to chat with Ms. Graham anytime I have questions. So I know that has been done. And it's in fact a matter of discussion that we have been having at Governance Working Group as well about developing evaluation matrices for the filling of board positions. So I think London Hydro, along with LMCH, is actually leading the way in having some templates that they already implement in reviewing and interviewing their candidates for board replacements. So very happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you. With that, I will go to Councillor Pribble. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. the Chair. I do have a few questions to ask. The first one, I just want to ask you, we have, or you had year on year, quite a bit of a increase in regulatory adjustments. Can you please explain it? If it has to do with province, what's our expectation?
Mr. Senstini.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. Utilities are an interesting thing in terms of what we bill. So as a local distribution company, our revenues are around $85 million per year, but we bill out closer to $500 million per year in total billing. Now, what regulatory balances usually are is a timing issue, where the OEB has set rates for us to be able to charge out. The cost of power is always changing on the market, and there's a delta that forms. That delta becomes the regulatory balances that you see there. Now, as an LDC, though, we are kept whole from those balances. So if London Hydro is overpaid by $5 million from what we've recovered in our electricity charges, the OEB allows us to put that essentially into an account. We're able to charge interest on that account, and over the next couple of years, we will recoup those dollars. So every year there's pluses and minuses, and over time those things balance out. But as an LDC, we are kept whole on those regulatory balances, and that's why we sort of take that out of the financial statements to show what the actual net income impacts are for the organization.
Councillor Pribble.
Thank you for that answer. And through the chair, last year there was a statement made, and I just want to know if it's still valid and if it's accurate during your presentation a year ago. The annual capital investment in infrastructure and technology is expected to increase by 130% from the current levels to achieve net zero by 2050.
Mr. Senstini.
So we will be reviewing this as part of our distribution system plan that we will be bringing forward. We will also bring it through to our board for approval. But that will really establish our next 5 years in terms of capital spending and dollars that will be needed over the long term. So I can't say today if that number is accurate or not accurate in terms of a new plan will be going forward and one that will need to be approved by the Ontario Energy Board as well.
Councillor Purple?
Thank you for that answer. You are presenting Vision 2030, your 5-year strategic plan, and currently it's at, you have the specific strategies, and currently it is presented as a 5-year plan. How do you plan to report to us, to the council, progress? Are you planning to do it on a semi-annual basis, but your targets, actions being divided into the annual or semi-annual, so we see the progress that the corporation is online reaching their goals instead of just like a 5-year plan?
Mr. Samsonini?
Thank you. So a couple of the items that we'll be doing as part of our strategic plan, we're in the process right now, and we've worked with the board on identifying key performance indicators over that 5-year timeframe. You know, a big change as we look at the type of organization we want to be is one that is accountable and one that is outcomes-based. So instead of, you know, just building widgets, you know, what is it that is the outcome that you're really looking for as an organization? So we are starting to set those up through the organization. So we'll have reporting in terms of what our goals are in any given year in our key performance indicators. Might be, you know, how quickly we answer phones, how long our customers are out, how we respond to large events, storms. Are we seeing more outages during storms or less? So we'll actually have a work plan that we establish as part of our strategic plan as well that will have sort of key milestones that we identify over that time frame. As it relates to coming to council, as I'd mentioned, you know, my goal is more communication. I think stepping in front of council once a year is probably not the right amount of time for us to be here. I think coming, you know, a little bit more quarterly, talking about very key strategic issues, that could be distribution system plans, that could be, you know, the filings that we're making for the Ontario Energy Board that will impact costs over the next 5 years, are things that we would like to bring to council and have more strategic discussions here and information provided so that the AGM becomes really a matter of the business at hand as opposed to the year that was and the year that's coming.
Councillor Purple? Sorry, Ms. Graham, go ahead.
Not to say, Councillor Pribble, that the performance plans for the CEO from the board and then drifting down into the organization via the vice president's performance plans haven't existed before. They have. But if you would like reports of those kinds of progresses at the end of every year, we're more than happy to give them. We review them through our HR and compensation committee, and then all of those performance plans and achievements or not are evaluated by the board, and the compensation, both base and leveraged, is paid out as a decision of the board at the end of the year. So it certainly has existed. The reporting, as you and Uzni might agree, going forward could be what you want it to be. Okay.
Councillor Pribble?
Thank you to both of you for those answers. Future, are we looking at potentially, or how are we looking in terms of the overhead and underground power lines, in terms of the existing ones and in terms of the future developments?
Mr. Samsonini?
So currently we have about 50% of our infrastructure is overhead, 50% underground. New subdivisions usually build underground. I think as we look at our long-term vision as well, one of the things that the team is looking for is location of our transformer stations around the city as well. I'm a firm believer that economic development is one of the key drivers that utilities can help with. I think the more stations we can build closer to the loads of those types of businesses will give us an advantage across the province. So it's something that we will definitely be looking at, trying to make sure our large loads are serviced with transformer stations that are close by. Looking at expansion of our stations to the north of the city as well. So this is all part of our distribution system planning work, the work with ISO around the long-term regional plan. But just know that London Hydro's vision is one where we are aiding in the development of the City of London, both from a residential perspective, but also from a business perspective as well.
Councillor Purple?
Thank you. I would like to thank the entire team of London Hydro for all the work you do on an everyday basis for 500,000 of Londoners, and I will be supporting everything that's in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Just looking for any final speakers. Councillor Van Meerbergen.
Thank you, Chair. I remember, just like it was literally yesterday, when we had the council meeting 14 years ago to nominate Connie Graham. And I believe I'm the only one around this horseshoe, in fact, I know I am, that actually voted for you. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you won that vote, because what's happened in the interim during those 14 years is tremendous. Tremendous not only just for London Hydro, but for the city as a whole. And I've got to point out that I'm very thankful for the fact that when the power goes out in our street, my house stays lit. So I really appreciate that. But anyway, thank you. On a serious note, thank you so much. You did a great job. Thank you.
Ms. Graham.
Yes, and Paul, we don't look any older, do we? Listen, thank you, all of you, for the kind wishes. It's just been an honor to serve all of you as representatives of our shareholder. And if I can speak for our whole organization, it's an honor that the City of London relies on us, and we take that responsibility very, very seriously. So thanks to you all, and particularly his deputy honor, who's recovering at home. I really appreciate, Sean, you attending as well.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further speakers, I will look to open the vote for A through G, and then we'll call H separately as Councillor Chossa requested.
Closing the vote, motion carries 13-0.
Thank you. We'll open part H.
Closing the vote, motion carries 12-1.
Thank you. That moves us to items for direction, of which we have item 4.1, which is London Hydro's proposed amendments to the shareholder declaration, of which was discussed as well, those potential changes. I'm just looking for a mover and a seconder, and any questions or comments on this item. Councillor Cuddy to move it, Councillor Chossa, seconder. Okay, with that, I'll look for questions. Councillor Pelosa, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question. I think it would kind of answer itself, but just on regards to page 533, its proposed changes should council not accept their recommended candidate for a board position. It just states if council does not initially approve the recommendation provided by the board, a board representative will discuss the recommendation in camera with council. And if we still don't support it, they'll bring forward another recommendation. Just realizing that at council, our procedurals will trump that we have to give this direction, that's what we want. So just making sure that as we go through this process that we don't inherently cause problems, that if we say we don't want them to do it, but their policies say you will do it, just making sure we don't have those issues. So just a comment from London Hydro or the...
Thank you. I will go to Mr. Samsonini. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but I know that this is to direct to go back to staff or to work on the shareholder declaration as well. So I'm not sure if you want to provide comment now.
Yeah, correct. And we would use, good governance practice and also the direction of the clerk's office in terms of the rules as it relates to council to ensure that we don't have, a misalignment of the direction both from the shareholder declaration and the rules of council.
Councillor Pelosa?
Thank you. I think even just adding the words in when it does come back of that upon request, a board representative will discuss recommendations in camera would fix any potential concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the vote.
Closing the vote, motion carries 12-1.
Thank you. That takes care of all the items that we had with London Hydro today. We'll move on to item 4.2, which is the 2025 London and Middlesex Community Housing Asset Management Plan. And I will first look to Ms. Barbone to see if you have any comments before we begin this discussion.
Thank you, through the chair. I'll have Mr. Sinise provide an overview of the report for the committee.
Wonderful. Mr. Sinise, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm pleased to present the highlights for the 2025 London and Middlesex Community Housing Asset Management Plan, developed in compliance with Ontario Regulation 588-17. This AMP aligns with the standardized approach used to develop the 2023 Corporate Asset Management Plan and the 2024 Asset Management Plans for the agencies, boards, and commissions. LMCH manages an extensive and vital asset portfolio valued at over $1 billion, primarily consisting of housing facilities, which represents approximately 95% of the asset base. However, due to aging infrastructure, the overall asset condition of these assets is currently in poor condition. This rating indicates that most building systems are functional, but approaching the end of their service life. Our analysis highlights several level of service scenarios, along with the associated funding gaps. To maintain the current level of service, an investment of $6.4 million over a 10-year period would be required. This investment would maintain the asset base in a poor condition. Achieving an overall condition of fair, so improving the condition of fair, would require an additional investment of approximately $34.6 million. And then achieving the LMCH board-approved recommended condition of good would require an approximate investment of about $110 million over 10 years. While an investment would be required to improve the average overall asset condition, LMCH does use a risk-based approach for the prioritization of investments to ensure that funds are spent fiscally responsible in a fiscally responsible manner, maximizes maintenance and the improvement of assets. In addition, LMCH is undertaking the Regeneration Master Plan that will provide a clear path to guide decision-making to ensure the long-term sustainability of LMCH. It's important to note that this AMP addresses the state of the LMCH infrastructure, along with investments to achieve various levels of service, but the ultimate funding decisions should be directed through to the multi-year budget process, or the budget process. In conclusion, LMCH's AMP provides a roadmap to address infrastructure gaps, improve housing conditions, and ensure sustainable service delivery. In attendance today are Paul Chisholm, CEO of LMCH, and John Krill, Director of Asset Renewal, to assist with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will invite Mr. Chisholm, Mr. Krill, if they'd like to come up to the podium, and just in case there are any questions, welcome and thanks for being here today. I will look for a mover and a seconder for this item, or, okay, I've got Councillor McAllister, Councillor Cuddy, and I'll look for speakers on this item. Councillor Chasso, go ahead.
Procedural question. I have filed a motion for a referral. Would I raise that at this point, or would this be defeated before I could raise that?
Since it's a referral, it takes precedence, so you may go ahead.
Yes, so I'll be looking for a seconder for the motion that was just circulated. That I don't know if you can put it up on the screen, but basically what it says is
just a moment, Councillor, and we'll get that up, or we'll take a look so we can read it out. Okay, thank you. That is on the screen. And so, Councillor, you're moving the motion in front of us. Would you like to read it out?
yes. The following actions be taken with respect to the 2025 LMCH Housing Management Plan. A is the same. It be received for information purposes. B, London and Middlesex Community Housing Access Asset Management Plan, appended to the staff report as Appendix A, be referred to the meeting of the Strategic Priorities and Policy Committee to be held June 17th, 2025, with a request to LMCH to include in a revised asset management plan the following, to include the following. 1, a breakdown of the facility's conditions as noted in Figure 3.4, overall condition, on a property-by-property basis. And number 2, additional information addressing the infrastructure gap as listed in Section 4.2.2, including exploring the opportunity to obtain a loan, including a mortgage, on LMCH housing properties to secure additional funds. And I'd be looking for a seconder on that.
Thank you, Counselor. So I'm looking for a seconder for that motion. This is a motion to refer, and it has specific items to it, but looking for a seconder for motion to refer. Counselor Hopkins?
Yeah, I'll second it for the conversation.
Okay, so I have a seconder. Okay, I'm looking for speakers on this item. Counselor McAllister.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm speaking against this. What we have before us today is the asset management plan. I think what you have before you speaks for itself. Understanding that the councillor wants more of a breakdown building by building. You're more than welcome to speak with LMCH staff. I'm sure if you want to have a discussion on a building by building basis, they'd be happy to accommodate. I think the report is very clear in terms of the state of condition, what's required to bring it up to higher conditions. I think we need to deal with these two things separately, and I think we need to deal with this today, and that's why I will not be supporting this. What you have before you is clear, and I think we need to delineate between these two things and not lump them together. Thank you.
Councillor Ferreira?
Thanks, Chair. I appreciate having the conversation. I guess before I kind of ask this question, I just wanted to know, is there any issues that we might foresee of receiving a property-by-property overall condition assessment? Just to break it down. And the reason I ask is because I look, and I'll make some more comments, I guess, as we get to the main motion. This referral is not the main motion to correct, just to correct, yeah, we're gonna be on that, okay. So I'm just looking at the scenarios here, and I see, you know, some of these scenarios with the current plan budgeting of what the condition assessments are looking like going into 2043. And then I see the assessment scenario B or scenario 2 to maintain current level of service, and just going through the list. And I do see that as we increase in the years, even if we are advancing more funds to maintain a good state of condition of the buildings, I do see we slip into this extreme, I guess, disparity between very poor and good as we go into the years. And that's, I'm referring to, as you see more red on the top of these charts and more green on the bottom. So I'm worried with that respect. So maybe this is why I kind of like this motion. We could see a little bit more detail on the actual buildings themselves, just to see a breakdown of, you know, what is really constituting the red as we move into the years and what is in the green. So I guess just to refine my question, are there any issues of getting the building by building breakdown and condition assessment?
Thank you to Ms. Barbone.
Thank you through the chair. That information is available. We've just not included it as part of our plan to keep some consistency amongst all of our capital asset management plans, but certainly that information is available. I believe Mr. Sinise can speak further to that.
Thank you, Mr. Sinise.
Through the chair. So this information can be found on a property-by-property basis on LMCH's website under the March 28th, 2025 board meeting, where it does provide the actual property along with the facility condition assessment. As Mrs. Barbone has suggested, we have excluded it for consistency purposes. We are trying our best to ensure that the framework of all of our asset management plans, whether or not it's going to be agency boards or commissions or direct city-owned asset management plans, are structured in a similar way. At this point in time, there is no other asset management plan that we currently have that provides that level of detail, although we do have it available upon request. But again, the goal here is to provide a consistent format and approach, noting that The reason why LMCH's board has it is because they traditionally are getting a bit more into the operational decision-making versus the role of this committee, which would be a bit more strategic in nature relative to the actual asset management plan. Thank you.
Councillor Ferreira.
Thank you for that. So it is available on the LMCH website. Do we need a motion for that, or can you submit that to council?
Thank you. Are you looking for help getting that off of the website?
No, I'm just, for consistency of, I guess, procedure, but I guess you can correct me. Is it required that we have this motion to get that information? Because it is on the website. And I guess I would ask for it to be submitted to council.
Ms. Barbone?
Through the chair, we could certainly have that circulated with the council agenda and provided to council. We'll work with LMCH to provide that.
Councillor?
I guess at the will of the council, I would request that. But that's my comments for now, I guess, with the answer that I got.
Thank you. I have Councillor Hopkins next, followed by Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. I second this, and just to have the conversation. I do want to receive the delegation, though. I have concerns. They are here. I would like to hear what they've got to say with their annual update. But following up on the previous delegation, I really appreciated the desire to come to us, not on an annual basis, but throughout the year with information that I think we're seeking. That can support the councillor that bought for this motion. So my concern is I don't want to, by defeating this, maybe it's a procedural question that I have then, that still will allow LMCH to attend throughout the year with requests that we may have to provide information. There's nothing stopping us from doing that by not supporting this referral.
Thank you. So a couple things. So what's in front of us today is the asset management plan, and Mr. Chisholm, Mr. Krill are here to help answer any questions, as is Mr. Sinise and Ms. Barbone from our staff. On top of that, we don't have a delegation, but at the next meeting of the shareholder, there will be an opportunity on that shareholder meeting to have a further conversation. I think that's what you're getting at for the next SPPC meeting. The motion in front of us is to refer what's here, but that doesn't stop us from having other conversations. As mentioned as well, Ms. Barbone said the information can be sent to us in between now and council.
I'm satisfied with that. I just want to take this opportunity to encourage LMCH to attend our SPPC meetings more on a regular basis as opposed to an annual basis to address the concerns that that some councillors have. And I think it also helps with our working relationship as well, as opposed to just doing it on an annual basis. I know we've done it in the past, and I really would like to take advantage of that opportunity. I'm glad that we'll be able to receive further information before council as well, so appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Councillor. I have Deputy Mayor Lewis next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So through you, I'm actually going to first direct a question to our guests from LMCH, either Mr. Chisholm or Mr. Krill, with respect to some of the language in this referral. The Board of Directors and the Finance Committee already has the ability to direct LMCH staff to utilize, for example, remortgaging of an existing asset for renewal purposes. Is that not correct?
Thank you. I'll direct that question to Mr. Chisholm. Mr. Chisholm, thank you for being here. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair. LMCH is permitted to take debt, but it requires the permission of the shareholder. So we would have to do that in conjunction with city staff to do that.
Ms. Barbone?
Thank you, through the chair. So certainly whatever debt is held by LMCH is City of London debt. So as you may already be aware, that we've already strategically accessed debt in relation to LMCH over the last 3 years, a number of years for the co-investment. So that pertains to some of the life cycle, but it was also an ability to access some forgivable loans that wouldn't have otherwise been available. So in terms of the ability to fund LMCH through debt, that broader impact is a City of London impact and would in fact actually be something that we would want to do through the budget process, because that impacts the city's broader debt strategy and certainly has an impact on debt levels, which also impacts the debt servicing requirements, which are key contributors to Moody's AAA credit rating in terms of the broader debt that the City of London holds. So in terms of looking all of that, any debt, and if you'll recall, through the most recent capital budget monitoring, we had a significant portion that we brought forward with respect to the debt and the levels that are there in the future. So certainly from a debt perspective, the city has no issues with accessing debt through the capital market. So whether it's done as a mortgage on LMCH properties or through our broader strategy, the end result is ultimately exactly the same. So, we're very fortunate, given our self-imposed debt caps, that we've been able to access debt, and certainly we're on the upper levels. So it's something that we would ask council to pay attention with in terms of what the broader strategies are as part of capital financing in the future as well. But certainly something that we know that through the regeneration plans that they are looking at, they are continuing to work with us and look at what those needs are and what the ability is to access additional debt to support some of the future endeavors that would come forward through future budget processes.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chisholm and Ms. Barbone, for that answer. It does certainly underscore the importance of the allocation of surplus to debt reduction as a policy so that we can properly utilize those things. I would just wonder through you, Madam Chair, if Ms. Barbone can also speak briefly to the relationship with the county, because it's LMCH, not just LCH, and what that sort of debt financing implications have on the county as well, because we do have a partner in this agency.
Thank you. Ms. Barbone.
Thank you, through the chair. So certainly through some of the conversations we've been having with LMCH as they look at regeneration of their assets, that was one of the items that we did have up for discussion, is that because LMCH falls under the previous social housing legislation, there is a cost sharing and feature to those assets that were devolved from the province. And as we look to regenerate that, whether it be through life cycle renewal or other mechanisms, there is a cost sharing component with the county, and we have a specific consolidated service management agreement that outlines what that cost sharing is. It's roughly 85-15 with a little bit of nuance to that calculation that goes forward. So certainly whatever life cycle renewal and investment is put into those assets in the future also has an ancillary impact to the county as they need to pay for their share of that through the cost sharing agreements.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Lewis on the referral.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate that. So I'm speaking very strongly against this referral. I'm asking colleagues to defeat it. Let's get this capital asset management plan approved today. First of all, we've heard from our staff. The information is already available on the LMCH website in the Board of Directors reports. All a councillor has to do if they're truly interested is go back and look at it. I can tell you with my board hat on, but also having looked through those reports, it's not a surprise and should be to no one. Our adult buildings are generally those that are in the most difficult states. Our family units are in generally better states of repair, and our seniors units will sometimes fall in between. There's a lot of work that's happening around regeneration and repair. I'll speak to that in the main motion. The point is, we do not need a referral for more information. The information is there if any counselor wants to take the time to go find it. The question around taking out mortgages to pay for renewal, I think has been addressed very clearly. There is already a process by which LMCH works with the city to do that. And it is through a budget process, not through a capital asset management plan referral for building information on a building by building basis. This is a motion that's not required, and I'm asking committee to defeat it. Let's get this plan approved and let's get on with the work of the regeneration of our housing as needed.
Thank you. I'm looking for other speakers before I go to speakers the second time around. Okay, seeing no more, I'll go to Councillor Ferreira. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I didn't mention this before, but just hearing the discussion, I was originally looking for the referral for more information, but I'm now kind of thinking I don't want to tie our hands, and I'm really worried about that. Now, I'm going to say this is none of our faults of the condition of the building. Nobody in this council chambers. This is something that is very complex, and it's been going on for the last few decades. And I know that this is a tough conversation, but you know, looking at the report, I'm wondering at what point do we say, you know, things are quite critical, it's all hands on deck, and what do we do and how do we move forward? I hear the utilization of potential dipping into bringing out debt to help us with this, and I hear that that is an option, but I'm also on the side of like, how do we ensure our property tax rate increase does not reflect next term what it did this term? So I have those concerns, and just to make sure that we don't potentially, again, tie our hands for any unforeseen things, maybe it would be wise for a referral to tie it into the next meeting. And that's just kind of me just approaching things with caution, because you know, you do see these like substantial amounts here that are pointed out, you know, the 100 million or so for the one level of condition that we're trying to bring it to, and then I think it was like 300 and something million for a level of good condition. So we're talking about very significant numbers here, and I hear what the deputy mayor is saying, but at the same time, I'm kind of in this position where I would like to kind of have no points in the future where we realize that we potentially may have kind of held ourselves up or put a barrier in front of us by voting on things now. Like, we need to bring the conditions of the buildings up to par as quick as possible, but I don't foresee this referral impacting that because it's going to come to the next meeting at June 17th. So I'm going to be actually voting for the referral now. I do know that we're getting that extra information, but it's just, I'm just approaching things with extreme caution from the report that I see here.
Thank you, Councillor. Looking for any further speakers on the referral. Councillor Trosso.
Yes, I'll sum up and thank you very much, and through the chair, I still feel very strongly that it would make more sense to have this matter decided at the same meeting when we're doing the shareholders meeting. Because if we send this to council and council approves it before the shareholders meeting, it is a decided matter of council. And I do not want to be in a position where matters pertaining to the conditions of premises is ruled out of order, because there are some very serious concerns about the conditions of the premises that I haven't even started talking about yet. And I wasn't going to do it during the referral, but I'll come back to it during the main motion. But I do want to say that one of the requirements of the plan is that it lay out scenarios for closing the infrastructure gap. And what I'm hearing is a confirmation of my theory that debt financing using the property, the $1 billion or so of assets, would be a viable solution. Yet it's not mentioned in the asset plan as a possible idea. And there is a list of possible ideas. At the very least, I would like to have that amended to include, consider the possibilities, as I say here in the motion. Now, if that can be done here on the spot or at council, that's fine. Maybe we don't need the referral. But I do not understand why we are approaching this plan approval, and then the shareholders meeting in steps. These should be done at the same meeting. Now, of course, if there was a deadline coming up, that would be different. There is a July 1st deadline for the asset management plan. It's not June 1st, it's July 1st, right? Yes, so I don't see the problem in doing that. The other point I want to make is, yes, it may be true that this information is contained in the minutes, but by adopting an asset management plan, we are creating a council-approved record. And there is no reason why this information, especially since it's already available and there aren't any, security or legal reasons why it couldn't be disclosed, it should be included even as a simple appendix to the asset management plan. Because if you look at the asset management plan sections dealing with conditions, you'll see that when you're dealing with the high rises, it's much worse than the 68%, and it gets a little better when you're dealing with townhouses. So I think the issue of property by property in a clear way on this motion today is a good idea. And in terms of the mortgage, we should definitely be looking at this, and it could be included in the asset plan as one of the things to explore. So I will continue to ask people to support this referral, and I will continue my comments. Should this deferral be defeated, which I suspect it will be, I will continue these comments during the main motion.
Thank you. I've got Mayor Morgan next on the speakers list. Go ahead.
I'm going to speak against the referral for two reasons. One, I think staff have already answered the question that the report can be appended by the council meeting. So if we defeat the referral, we approve the asset management plan, they could bring forward an additional piece of information that could be added to the council agenda and appended, not necessarily to the capital asset management plan, but the report approving this, as many communications are. On the possibility of mortgages, I think at least I heard from our staff that that's a possibility. It would be most appropriate to be done through the business case, although it's not explicitly listed in section 4.22. 4.22 VI does say that LMCH could submit additional investment business cases through the multi-year budget process, and in such cases could mitigate the growth of the achieved proposed LOS, cumulative 10-year infrastructure gap. So it's already an option there. It would involve discussing with our staff about the city's debt load, bringing it forward in a multi-year budget business case, and then we would have the consideration about how we balance actually that debt load over time versus all of the other debt we're issuing, because this debt is not debt of a separate organization or corporation. It's debt that we basically take full account for on our books when we're assessed on our entire and overall debt load, of which this has been a discussion we've had at a number of committees. The paying down of debt, the issuing of debt, what that says about principal interest payments and the ability for us to borrow debt in the future at competitive rates on behalf of Londoners. So I don't disagree with that the councillor has some legitimate concerns about the conditions of the assets. I also don't disagree that the councillor would like to see this information on the council record. I just think all of that can be done without the need for a referral. And I don't have a concern doing the capital asset management plan now and the shareholder meeting later. Capital asset management plans are reviewed on a regular basis and updated regularly. So there's lots of opportunity to do so, and I don't think it precludes our ability to receive multi-year budget business cases related to addressing the infrastructure gap in various ways. What I will say, though, is there is a large infrastructure gap here. It's a big organization, right? 3,200 plus units, 32 properties, 5,000 tenants. Think about one multi-residential high-rise build. You're talking about $100 million for one of those, right? So $100 million of investment necessary in the infrastructure gap is very large. There are pieces of this asset that are in conditions that I think we would all like to see improved. I think some of the work being done to rebuild Southdale, as well as the work that was done a few years back to partner with CMHC to get both a loan as well as a forgivable piece of that loan and start to make improvements to the current assets. I think we'd all like to see that go faster and have more money available to us, but the organizations and the boards of the past have been trying to address this challenge, and I think it's fair for us to continue to ask questions of them, but I think we have to recognize that there is change happening that has never happened before. We can certainly discuss the pace, but I think that there's good work being done. I'm comfortable with defeating the referral and proceeding with the main motion and the future discussions we'll have.
Thank you. Anyone else on the referral? Okay, see, go ahead.
Yeah, just as a follow-up question for you, Madam Chair, maybe when will the next update on the asset management plan come forward? Is it brought to us on an annual basis? I'm just trying to understand the sequencing here.
Ms. Barbone?
Thank you, through the chair. So as per the regulations and as approved in the policies, every 5 years, we have a complete refresh to bring them forward. Because LMCH had a bit of a different schedule with respect to timing, and it was actually completed initially in 2020 prior to all of the other boards and commissions, we're a little bit out of sync with bringing them all together. So what we're anticipating is that due to the timing of when we need to bring forward the next multi-year budget, as well as the 5-year update of all the asset management plans for the other boards and commissions, we're looking at trying to align that so that it might be here a little sooner than the 4-year or the 5-year time frame, and may actually come in 4 years. So we're just trying to work that out to see what is doable to try to bring them all forward at the same time, again, to make it a little easier to be in line with the regulations every 5 years.
Councillor Hopkins.
I appreciate that information. I think it is important that we try to align this asset management plan with all the budget and the other plans as well. I'm surprised it's 5 years. I'd like to see it a little bit sooner than that, given the challenges that are out there. I'm pleased that we're going to receive further information on property by property before council as well. You know, I do appreciate the conversation. I think I won't be supporting the referral back, but I do encourage this conversation to be more frequent than it is. It's something I think we all need to understand and undertake as a committee of the whole to understand the LMCH properties a little bit more. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trossel, you've used your 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. So I'm looking for any final speakers on the referral before I call the question. Seeing no further speakers, that will be open for you when you scribe. Just reminding people this is on the referral.
Closing the vote, motion fails 2-11.
Thank you. So we've dealt with the referral. We're now back to the main motion, which was moved by Councillor McAllister and seconded by Councillor Cuddy. That reads that the report be received, and B, that the 2025 London Middlesex Community Housing Asset Management Plan as appended to the staff report dated May 27th as Appendix A be approved in accordance with the Ontario Regulation 588-17. So on that item, I'm looking for speakers. Councillor McAllister.
Thank you through the chair. As a board member, I'll get this conversation rolling. I'll be very blunt with my comments. I don't think the results are a surprise to anyone. I think what you see is a reflection of past decisions in terms of the investments. I'm proud to say this council has invested in housing, but you are trying to course correct on decades of degradation. What you would see maybe with other property portfolios is a staggered plan. You wouldn't necessarily see all buildings in the same sort of condition, but this is a reflection of, as I said, past decisions. Much of community housing was built around the same time. Many of these properties were built in the 1960s, 1970s, and so all these properties are falling into the same trap, which is aging infrastructure. And what I've seen is a concerted effort at the board level to address these, but you are in a triage situation with multiple holes in a ship that you're trying to plug. I think we've done the best with the limited resources we have. We have seen improvements lately. You are seeing a lot of efforts being put into regeneration. What you've seen at Southdale is an acknowledgement that those buildings have reached end of life. We can use our land more wisely, build up, and create more units, which ultimately I think is the goal of this council, to try to get more affordable housing options online. I know a number of my colleagues will have questions. I'm happy that LMCH staff are here if you do have them. And we're also available, obviously, if you do have questions in the future, if you want to speak with us. Myself, Deputy Mayor Lewis sit on this board. More than welcome to talk with councillors. But I do think we have done the best with the resources we have. Obviously, this report shows a number of these properties are in poor condition, but what you have before you is the numbers that it would take to elevate these properties to higher levels. So I would respectfully ask that my colleagues in their comments, if those are the directions you want to go, it requires the money to do so. And as had been indicated in the previous conversation, these are discussions that have to happen through the multi-year budget because they have ramifications in terms of the financial impacts. I'll leave my comments there, but I'm happy to have this discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Ferreira next. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. To Councillor McAllister's comments, like, he is exactly right. This has been something that's been decades in the making. And, you know, we had our suspicions, but reading this report, it's very clear that the board and staff from LMCH are driving a ship in some, I guess, significant times. And, you know, I do recognize the work that you've done. I do see this report has highlighted some areas where, you know, just an inability to really be proactive and be more reactive just because of the resources at your disposal. And I understand that that makes things very challenging. And I understand that at the board level, that would make things as challenging as well. And so I do recognize that. And I do think that there is a good job being done with the resources at your disposal. So I am saying that. At the same time, looking at the different options, and I did kind of allude to this in the referral motion, I am concerned with the different scenarios because I see that both scenario B and scenario C, and those are the ones to maintain a fair condition and the ones to maintain a current level of service, leads us to, in the end, by 2043, a big disparity between what is good and what is very poor. And even with these scenarios, if we were to decide, I would say I wouldn't be happy with scenario 2 and scenario 3, because it does leave us with that big disparity. And we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we have around half of the units that are housing that we have in a good condition, and then around half in a very poor condition. And I'm just worried about the situation that leaves us in. And it's just to compare that with today, if we were to look at today, you know, we have obviously over 2/3 considered in poor condition, but that's in poor condition. And I know just from my communication with residents and constituents that there are concerns. But if we were to see these two scenarios, and this is shy of the good condition assessment, that would have us in, yes, less for example, scenario 3, less than 2/3 in a poor condition, but you have over 25% in very poor condition. So that's very concerning to me. And the only scenario that I see here that would be sufficient would be scenario D or scenario 4, to have most of the properties within good condition. So before moving to that, the amount for scenario 4 is That's the 100 million, or is that the 300 million? I remember it says it somewhere on the end of the report, but just to confirm, how much would be total the amount that we would have to invest here for scenario 4?
I'll go to Ms. Barbone. Oh, sorry, Mr. Sneed.
Through the chair, so scenario 4, that would be your level of service condition of good, which is again the recommended scenario recommended by the board. That would require an additional investment of $110 million over a 10-year period. Thank you.
Councillor Ferrer.
Thank you for confirming that. And I appreciate that that is the recommendation by the board, and I feel like this is the only recommendation we should be considering, because the other recommendations would have us put in significant amounts of money, and we would still be in a situation where we have a very significant portion at the end of this graph that, or this chart that we see here, in very poor condition. So I guess I'll leave my comments there for now, but these are the things that I think we should be considering, and I don't see any other consideration other than scenario 4 that we should be really looking into, because in the end, people are living here, and a few of us do have constituents who live in London Middlesex community housing, and I know that we get these inquiries all the time, and I really think that the discussion, I guess, at the next budget update, or if we're talking about debt, is going to be around how do we pay for that. And like I said in the referral, I really don't want to see a property tax rate increase. So we had to catch up with a lot of past decisions with this term, and I understand that, and I think we did a good job on that, but we can't continue that in the future, and this is kind of the big elephant in the room, it seems, at this point. And maybe, and I would just kind of throw this comment out there, it's kind of...
30 seconds.
I'll just throw this comment out there. It's not a question, but a comment. At what point do we engage other levels of government for funding assistance?
Thank you. You're asking that as a question?
Sure, I'll put that as a question. Actually, no, that's a comment for now. We can talk about that later.
Thank you. Looking for other speakers on this item. Councillor Chassa.
Through the chair, and with all due respect to the staff who compiled this report, and reading through other asset management plans, this is a pretty standard report, and this is how they're done. There's something very different about the assets of London Middlesex community housing than the other asset plans we're looking at. If you're going to go to the library, maybe you'll be there a few hours a week. If you're going to get on a bus, maybe you'll be on the bus maybe a few hours a day, the way I hear it. If you're going to go to the police station, well, hopefully you won't be there very long. And if you're going to deal with the fire department, hopefully you won't be dealing with them very much. If you want to go to the museum, et cetera, et cetera. However, these assets are different types of assets because there's a human factor here. People live in these units. And I want to remind people that as a matter of provincial law, we don't have an option between fair, poor, or good. The provincial law, provincial statute, which is a higher level of law than OREGs, says, the RTA, Section 20, a landlord is responsible for providing and maintaining a residential complex, including the rental units in it, in a good state of repair and fit for habitation and for complying with health, safety, and maintenance standards. Good, it's the law. It has to be good. If it's not good, it's substandard. And if it's substandard, there are a whole variety of remedies under this act that tenants could avail themselves of, some already have, that could end up costing the agency money. I guess my one question I have for legal staff is, if the agency becomes liable to tenants for rent-related claims where they have to pay money, is the city also liable for that? And that's a direct question.
Okay, I will go to Ms. Hovius, if you don't mind providing any information that you can provide in public session.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Any advice with respect to liability would be answered in camera or the subject of a confidential report.
Thank you, Counselor.
Generally speaking, if you have a shareholder and a sole share, if you have a sole shareholder relationship with an agency, and the agency has obligations, without getting into the details of a particular case, would the sole shareholder have any liability with respect to satisfying judgments? Without talking about any particular case. Can you answer that in open session?
Ms. Hovius.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm not prepared to provide any opinion on liability in public.
Counselor?
Would you be able to do that if we went into closed session, or would you want to look at that more?
Thank you, Counselor. So I'm understanding your question to be, are we prepared to go in camera for this item, and is legal ready to provide any advice at this time, or are you looking for a report back? You're asking that?
I'm asking legal if she's prepared to answer the question, but would prefer to do it in closed session, or whether she would like to look at it more before she answers the question. Because if it's the latter, I will ask for further information to come forward at council. Perhaps we should go into closed session at council. But I think it's an important question, because when you look at section 20.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Do you want me to ask that question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Ms. Hovius.
Thank you, and through you, if the councillor is requesting specific information, I would request the ability to report back at council confidentially.
And that's fine.
Thank you, Counselor. So the answer's been provided to you, and I'll look for what you'd like to do next.
Yes, I'll move on, and it's never my intention to put council on the spot, and I will look forward to a report back at council, and I suspect we'll go into closed session on that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that
Madam Chair, point of order.
I'm speaking to the motion.
Thank you, Counselor. I'll hear your point of order.
Just hearing Councillor Trouse's questions and comments about going into closed session at council. Procedurally, I believe a motion would still be required of council to want that information at council, just procedurally.
Yes, that's correct at council.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Trosso?
In which case I'll move, and this doesn't count towards my 5 minutes because it's a separate motion. I'll move that we request legal staff to provide us a report. It can be oral, it can be in writing, for the council meeting to answer the question regarding the liability of the sole shareholder in these cases. And I'd look for a second for that.
Okay, Counselor, you won't look for a second. I'll look for a seconder if there's a motion being moved. At this time, my understanding is you're asking for a report at a future meeting. So that would be at the future meeting that you're asking for that information to come back. We've heard that that's possible, that information could come forward at a future meeting. That would be council deciding to receive that information, or you're looking to move right now to receive that information at a further date.
Yes, the reason why I'm looking to do it now is mostly as a courtesy to legal staff, so they know we'll be looking at that for the council meeting, and it won't be coming up as a motion for the first time at a council meeting, and we'll be right back where we are now.
Okay, Counselor. So here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Ms. Hovius has told us that she'll be prepared to address that in closed session at council. So that's already known. So I don't foresee a recommendation needed at this time to move in that direction, as you can give that direction at council.
Thank you very much, and I will do that, and I'll move on. My next concern with this asset management plan is that, and I don't know if this is something that could be put into asset management plans or whether it's superfluous. I would really appreciate seeing a comparative analysis between where London Middlesex community housing's infrastructure gap is and where other comparable jurisdictions sit with this. And maybe this is a separate report, the caps, maybe this is a separate report someplace else.
30 seconds.
But I would like to see this information at some point. And finally, the last point I want to make is we're not going to revisit this asset management plan for 5 years. So not only is that the end of this council, but it's pretty much the end of the next council too. So this is why I want to take a slower, more deliberate approach with this asset management plan. It's why I'll be voting against it here. It's why I'll be voting against it at council. And I really do appreciate the additional work that legal staff will do. And I appreciate the additional work that
that's your
LMCH
time.
will do to get us that property by property.
Thank you. Looking for other speakers on this item. Mayor Morgan is next. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to make just a couple of comments on this. First, I want to recognize that when we talked about the infrastructure gap generally, we talked about some decisions in the multi-year budget taking what was upwards of almost $1 billion of infrastructure gap over 10 years down to about $700 million. So when you look at the LMCH's infrastructure gap, there's lots of conclusions that you can jump to, and I've heard through the chair, respectfully to my colleagues, a number of people saying there hasn't been investments in the past or alluding to that. Certainly if you're going back decades, yes, there hasn't been investments in new stock of social housing, community-based housing in a generation. But I would ask colleagues, and Councillor Hopkins will know this because she served on the last council, as did a number of others, but I know Councillor Hopkins has been with me on a couple of councils. We have started to make investments in this space over successive multi-year budgets, including considering business cases in the 2020 to 2023 multi-year budget on LMCH infrastructure gap and co-investment with CMHC and support money for staffing and security and a regeneration of public housing investments, of which a number of those decisions in the previous multi-year budget led to a partnership with CMHC, a significant capital investment and loan, as well as a significant forgivable portion of that loan to start some of the work on regenerating some of these spaces, as well as the regeneration of the Southdale assets. So sometimes these things can take time when you're talking about such a significant asset. And I think all of us would like it to be fixed and up to perfect condition today. But that is not the way that municipal assets work. That is why and every municipality has a infrastructure gap in almost every line of its operating business in our capital assets in some way, is because there are not enough resources at the municipal level to solve all of these problems all at once. So what I want to recognize is two things. One, for those who live in these assets, I think all of council recognizes that it absolutely could be better. I think we've talked about that around these horseshoes, and I think we're committed to doing that. But I also want to recognize that we have made, as a municipality, significant investments in the previous multi-year budgets, as well as the current one that we're working through, in attempting to address this. And $100 million over 10 years is something that we can absolutely make progress towards. 110, sorry, Mr. Sense. We can absolutely make progress towards, but we have to consider those items. So although the infrastructure gap, or the capital asset management plan, sorry, gets fully updated and built from the ground up every 5 years, that doesn't mean you don't make significant investments and consider significant investments between those periods of time that will chip away at that total. But there is not going to be a plan that is going to bring that gap to zero in a short period of time. It would require significant investment from other levels of government, and those other levels of governments know that this is a challenge that many municipalities have. And just on the comparison towards other municipalities, we also have to recognize that there are a number of funding envelopes, both federally and provincially, that can be used in a multitude of different ways. And the City of London has decided to direct some of those provincial and federal programs in affordable housing spaces that are not necessarily directly aimed towards London Middlesex community housing. Other communities may have done that towards their housing corporations. So the comparability of these across municipalities, I would be cautious about, because different municipalities are making different overall social and affordable housing decisions with assets in different ways, and they're choosing to allocate those. And it will get very complex to try to compare those on an apples to apples comparison. What I think we can focus on is that we have a general commitment to making this asset better. I think we have 2 council representatives on this organization who are committed to echoing that voice and bringing ideas back to this council. And I appreciate the work they're doing, and I appreciate that everybody would like it to go faster. But I think that approving this plan today is a step towards recognizing the condition of the asset and opening up the door for us to consider the investments that we need to make to bring down the infrastructure gap at a reasonable pace, given the other challenges that we have as a municipality, and that there's only so many dollars to go around unless there's going to be a significant opening up of provincial and federal contributions in this space.
Thank you. I have Deputy Mayor Lewis next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So through you, if you'll permit, I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Chisholm very quickly. Can he indicate to us what the average rent income LMCH receives from an ODSP or OW recipient via the provincial subsidy that they're provided for shelter allowance?
Thank you, Mr. Chisholm.
Thank you, and through the chair, I can report that 53% of our tenants pay less than $250 a month in rent. For a single-member household on Ontario Works, where we include the hydro, they pay $115 a month. For a single-member household on ODSP, where we pay the hydro, they pay $139 a month. Around 40% of our households are on income support programs with those limited rental coming in, and that's set through the Housing Services Act. So it's not something, if we raise the rent, we don't raise our revenue. We just sort of create a false accounting. So for us, that's one of our challenges, is rental revenue for some of the households is very low.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lewis.
And through you, Madam Chair, just a brief follow-up to that. How many years has that rate been sort of locked in by the province at this point in time?
Mr. Chisholm?
Thank you, and through the chair. For the most part, the income support rental rates have been locked in place since the devolution of housing in around 2002. So 23 years.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that's very important information for council to have, I think. Nowhere in the private sector would a building be maintained in good or even fair condition where the rental income is less than $250 a month for roughly half the tenants, a little bit less than that, but the point stands, and has been frozen at that rate for over 2 decades. So to go to Councillor Ferreira's question, the advocacy with the other levels of government needed to start 20 years ago, but it needs to continue today. And I know that I've had those conversations with MP Fragiscatos. I'm looking forward to having those with Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP Flack, in the coming days as well. When you look at ODSP and OW tenants in the private sector, their shelter allowances come in around the $500 mark, whereas at LMCH, they're coming in the $100 and some mark, depending on the income subsidy. That is not sustainable. And Councillor McAllister's point was excellent. This is a ship with many holes, but it's a ship we inherited via provincial downloading, with many holes already in it and without any funding from the province to maintain it. So this is not a direct consequence of the city in some ways, although I would certainly agree with the comments about, for a generation, the city really failed to, and not just London, many municipalities failed to invest in the public housing that was downloaded to us by the province. That said, Property taxes didn't build these buildings, and property taxes alone are not going to fix these buildings. So the advocacy piece with the other levels of government is really, really going to be critical. I think it's important, and I'm not saying this to put words in his mouth, but I read the CBC article yesterday, and Mr. Chisholm referenced the fact that since 2020, LMCH has actually been able to start to catch up on the backlog. They've maintained the critical infrastructure, and they've been able to start catching up, because in that 2020 to 2023 municipal budget under Mayor Holder, significant capital investments were made for LMCH to start, and that investment has continued under the current multi-year budget as steered by Mayor Morgan and stick-handled by Councillor Pelosa as our budget chair. So there is more funding going into LMCH in terms of capital repairs and upkeep of our properties than there has been in, frankly, generations, I would say, given that it's been 2003 since the rates have been frozen by the province. So I think that's very important for colleagues to keep in mind. And I also, in that same CBC article, recognize, and I know we've had a communication from a tenant as well, but I recognize a tenant who was saying, in one example, she said the outdoor water tap isn't working, and that's been 3 years, but said it's not an emergency issue, so I guess it's kind of put on the back burner. And that's true, and it's unfortunate that those outdoor taps aren't always working. But when it comes to prioritization between something like that or an elevator replacement, or an HVAC system in a high density residential building, I think you can see that the triaging here is absolutely necessary. And at the end of the day, I would really encourage colleagues to adopt this plan and move it forward. I do want to take an opportunity as well, through you, Madam Chair, if Mr. Chisholm hasn't sat down yet, or if he's willing to stand back up, to direct a couple of other questions to him, and particularly in terms of critical infrastructure, because our adult high-rise buildings are obviously in some of the poorest condition. How are we trending towards getting what is a piece of critical infrastructure, the elevator cabs and the elevator shafts, brought up to current needs?
Okay, I'll go to Mr. Chisholm, then you have 30 seconds.
And thank you, and through the chair. So we do have an investment in elevators at this time. For around $6.4 million, starting in 2023. By the end of 2026 and early 2027, we'll replace 100% of our elevator cabs and infrastructure. That includes all the gear, the interiors of the cabs, and it updates the codes for these, for accessibility and fire life safety that have changed over time. So 100% of those cabs will be refurbished within the next 2 years.
Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, if I can just direct one other quick one to Mr. Chisholm. In terms of our family units, and I'm thinking this is particularly our townhouse units, how are we doing in terms of replacing our aging furnaces and the door and window repairs in units with energy leaks and cold issues and temperature control, tenant comfort there?
Mr. Chisholm.
Thank you, and through the chair. Over the last 5 years or less, we have replaced 100% of the furnaces in our family townhouse sites. Within the next 2 years, we'll replace 100% of the hot water tanks. And the windows have been replaced on a site-by-site basis in the last 10 years, including our Pond Mills and Allen Rush sites that were replaced last year.
Thank you. 9 seconds, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So really quickly, we're building the first new housing in LMCH's portfolio in 50 years. We've taken on a couple of buildings that the city has asked us to in Ladybrook and Baseline and Sylvan Street, on top of maintaining our existing buildings, and we're making progress. Let's stick with the plan. Let's get these to good condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional speakers on this item? Looking around the horseshoe and online. Okay, seeing none, I will look to open the vote on this item.
Closing the vote, motion carries 12 to 1.
Thank you. That takes us to item 4.3, which is the notification of removal of a board of director from Eldon House. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder on this item. Councillor Ferreira, Councillor Hopkins, and any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will open this item to vote.
Trassa votes yes.
Closing the vote, motion carries 13-0.
Thank you. I've not been made aware of any additional business. Just looking in chambers and a couple of people jumping the gun to adjournment. I have two for a motion to adjourn. I have Councillor Ferreira and Councillor Van Meerbergen, and with show of hands, all in favor of adjourning. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.